I will save this review. Even if it means I have to do it this way. And start from the beginning. Only be quick about it. I tried doing a live stream, but like 4 minutes in I got disconnected. So, the least I can do is just to like, and on the fly, record and upload later. Yeah, that speaks for itself. It's been a while since I've done these kind of videos. There's so many movies I could probably talk about. So many better movies I could really talk about. I saw Aquaman Christmas Day. That was insanely enjoyable. That was like 2 hours and 20 minutes. And yet that had Atlanteans riding sharks with laser beams attached to them. No. I decided to see Holmes and Watson out of curiosity. Just pure curiosity. Everyone has been on this movie's case. Oh. That was interesting. That was more interesting than the movie. This has been labeled like one of the worst movies of the year. And some have been saying it's the worst movie of the year. There's been like critical reviews are pretty much turning into like the ultimate critical punching bag. There are like so many folks on Twitter saying that there's been walkouts and stuff. Excuse me. Let me have a right to because it's Holmes and Watson. I decided to think to myself, well, it can't all be that bad. Like, just looking at the trailer, it seemed like a rental or passable, but the fact that everyone was jumping on this movie and saying it was horrible, it was horrendous, it was the worst thing ever, it's like, it can't be that bad. No, I decided to see it for myself, and the main thing is, I don't think it's one of the worst movies of the year, but at the same time, it's a very bad product. It's a very bad product. I'd rather talk about the audience more than the movie itself. There were 14 people in there. Not a single walked out. There was like a guy who was like 2 rows behind me who had a ginger afro. I kid you not. There were these 2 dudes like off to the side who kept snickering at like the most obvious of jokes. Like, there's one scene where, like, Holmes and Watson get, like, wasted and stuff, and they're sending a telegram to 2 doctors that they have, like, a thing for, and then Watson, you know, is doing, like, this really drunk, you know, how are you, how you doing, and then he, like, you don't see it because it's PG-13, but you hear the sound effect, like, he puts, you hear a zipper sound, you hear his junk on the table, and it's like, oh, can you somehow send that in? It's like, it's the first dick pic. That's all this movie is. It's just trying to find humor with itself, and it has no focus. It's idea, and it's not strung together. That's this whole debacle in a nutshell. There's no focus. Like, okay, it starts off with something interesting. We see like young kid Sherlock Holmes or whatever going to a school, and he get kicked the crap out of for no reason. All right, whatever. And then like later something snaps in his brain, and he like looks at all the kids and like, you know, oh, I got dirt on you. I got dirt on you. I can have you all expelled. And then he meets Watson, and he's like a grindstone to the nose with his studies and stuff. That first 5 minutes alone, I kind of want to see more of. Because at the very least, I can see something being made out of that movie. Just young mini Sherlock Holmes in Victorian England doing like Three Stooges style kind of stuff. Let me lock my doors. Weird van pulled up next to me. That alone I can see working in some strange kind of sense. But then afterwards, it goes downhill. Oh, it goes downhill from there. Like, Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, they're good actors. They really are. I like them in Step Brothers, which is ironic because the director of Step Brothers did this movie. I think he wrote it. I think he did. I wish I could check, but my phone's doing this. But no, it's just them. Sherlock is Will Ferrell is taking the angle of the bumbling idiot, and Watson is just sort of there. They don't do anything that interesting with his character. He's just kind of there, like, oh yes, I support you, and I'm here to be like the kind of sort of straight man that's there to sell the jokes further on. Like in the first scene, they're trying to go to the court where Moriarty is, just so they could like show that he's a bad guy and all that sort of stuff and get him arrested. And the whole joke is them stalling time because the judges are like, unless it's noontime, Moriarty is gonna go to jail. And so they have like a gag that goes on for way too long where he's trying on like different hats and stuff. He's like, oh, I want to look good and stuff. And then he's given like a box with a killer mosquito, and the mosquito gets loose, and it goes into like this parody of like the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes, where you see in his and also like, I don't know, Numbers, or the TV show Sherlock, where he does like all the numbers in his heads and stuff, and he's like the diameters and angles. And in a way that could be cute, that could be kind of funny. Excuse me. But no, it's, I don't know, something about it just didn't seem right. Like, it could have been funny in a weird way, like seeing all the different scribbles and stuff, or maybe just like Watson like walking around when he's doing that little thing where he's going slow. He's like, hey, what are you doing there? Oh, I'm in a Sherlock moment. And of course, like you see in the trailer, he breaks the glass and the bees get loose, and it's like, that's this whole movie. It's just we're throwing in every single joke we can in here just for the sake of a laugh, and that's really about it. I think there was like one joke I did like in that opening. It's where they finally get to the court, and then Watson's all like, stop the trial, and he shoots the gavel, shoots the clock, and starts like shooting things for no apparent reason. That was kind of funny. And then Will Ferrell Sherlock is all like, that's not the real Moriarty of a trial, because apparently he's been hired on for asphyxiation because he gets off that kind of stuff, or he's aware. Yeah, this whole movie is just linorama. Just pure linorama, and I don't mind linorama when it's done right, because at least you can just cut that out and somehow make the take work. You don't need to extend the take and, hammer it in like, oh, he's this kind of person, oh, he's that kind of person, like, really selling it. Yeah, we get it. He slaps the salami too many times. So, the first 5 minutes, if you can survive the first, 5 or 15 minutes, that's all the movie is. It's just we're throwing out gags, seeing what sticks, and we're just not stringing them together. There's not even a mystery to it. It's just the Queen, has like some kind of a birthday going on for Sherlock, or some kind of surprise party. I don't care. And apparently they find a dead body in the cake, and it's like, oh, we got a case to solve here, and there's like a little Moriarty note. Even though the entire running gag is that there is no Moriarty. In fact, Ralph Fiennes supposedly plays Moriarty, and he's not even in the movie for that long. Because they're all imposters, and you just see him at the little tail end, and that's it. This is just so loosely stringed together. It's just, one beat after another, and there's just nothing connecting to it. Oh, we got a murder to solve, or otherwise the Queen's gonna get killed. That's literally just the story. You could so generically take that and just put it to anything. The problem with this movie is it's not taking the Sherlock Holmes debacle and doing something interesting with it. It could be a parody of the Red-Headed League, or the Speckled Band. It could have been like Hound of the Baskervilles. That would have been perfect for this kind of thing. Just doing their own little parody of the Hound of the Baskervilles. It's trying to be like this run-of-the-mill Zucker Brothers parody, but the thing is, with the Zucker Brothers, they had a story. They had interesting characters. They had interesting things to play off of. They had material to work with within the narrative. So at the very least, you could jump in and be like, okay, it's this kind of movie because there's something to follow. There's a story to go by. Even Step Brothers had a story to go by, even though they were throwing like one joke after another, but there were things to connect to it, and that's what made that movie work. This is just, okay, we're gonna make modern day references just for the sake of, for the modern day crowd. Like, we're gonna have a reference to pay-per-view because, hey, the older crowd knows pay-per-view, or selfies and duck faces because those have not been invented yet. We're clever. To talk about this movie, I have to describe every individual scene. And even then some of them are kind of confusing too, because you have that there's one bit where they go to the morgue to examine the dead body that came out of the Sherlock's birthday cake, and like they meet up with these two doctors from America, and one of them is supposed to be like a feral cat, and all she does is like, give these really awkward stares, and once in a while she like licks her paw and stuff, her hand and stuff. But then her colleagues all like, oh yes, I use electroshock therapy, to make her perceive that she's like a 4-year-old. So she's a 4-year-old girl with the mind of a cat. Pick one or the other. It's more funnier if she was just a full-on cat. I mean, they did that thing on the Drew Carey show when Ryan Stiles' character had, a squirrel lady for a girlfriend, and at least she had squirrel-like abilities. Here, all she has is like really bug-eyed and stuff, and that's about it. Once in a while, she has a shotgun and just randomly points it. That's kind of funny, but that's about it. Because, why not? Look excited, you had a shotgun. The morgue sequence is pretty much the pinnacle of what's wrong with this movie, because it goes back and forth trying to be a parody of Sherlock or be like a modern version of Sherlock. Like you have Watson and the American doctor. They're trying to look over this body and stuff. It's covered in frosting. Like, oh, we must cleanse it. We like doing it. And they're like, oh, we love doing it to music. Ooh. And so he gets like one of those like RCA record players, and he puts on the song from Ghost. Oh my love, and they start like cleaning the body and stuff slowly, like as if they're trying to make a pottery thing out of it. And what? Just what? Is it here just for the sake of being weird? Is it here for the sake of being random? At least with Naked Gun 2.5, when they did the pottery scene, when they parodied the pottery scene from Ghost, they parodied the pottery scene from Ghost, beat for beat. But that worked because they legitimately were using a pottery and stuff. If they had the corpse on like a little turn wheel and was like cleaning its stuff like in the pottery, okay, then it would make sense. No, the body is right there on the slab, and they're just like rubbing its chest here and trying to get the frosting off and stuff, and it doesn't make any sense. As mentioned before, they do the whole angle where like Sherlock is the bumbling idiot and Watson is the smart person, but apparently he's also the dumb lackey. He's pretty much Max from the Great Race. Sure, why not? That's his personality. There's just so many ways this movie could have been improved. Just so many ways. Like, again, if you want to do the whole modern thing, okay, why not do, like, a modern... Do what Aladdin did. Keep the base of an Arabian Tale, but really give it this Las Vegas kind of feel and stuff. Shanghai Nights, that did the same thing, too. Like, it threw in the modern stuff and the modern isms and the modern lingo, but without removing the fact that it's set in this time period, and they weren't hitting it over the nose by saying, oh, I invented this, oh, I invented that. The cameos in this movie are wasted. Like, really, really wasted. There's a scene when Sherlock gets stumped about trying to solve the murder of who did it. Who's the murderer? Because someone's going to assassinate the queen. And he goes to see his older brother who's in this club, and he's played by Hugh Laurie, and it's, I'll admit, just... It was kind of funny seeing the two of them play off of each other. Just Hugh Laurie going, I am the much smarter brother, and the fact they talk in like mind speak or whatever, like the observers from Mystery Science Theater 3000. That idea is kind of funny, and that has like sort of an interesting payoff near the end. But I just kept thinking to myself, wouldn't it be great to see Hugh Laurie as Sherlock? maybe it already happened. I don't know about it. I know Benedict Cumberbatch was Sherlock. They just throw so many ideas out, and they're not meshing together. They're not working together. There's a song sequence with the lyrics written by Alan Menken, and it's all like Sherlock puts Watson in jail, and he, goes, what are these feelings? And they do like a big 11 o'clock number and stuff, and Watson's in jail about how he's saying he's going to hang and die, and Sherlock's around saying, what's all this? What's he's feeling? And sees the crazy cat lady, and crazy cat lady, is like, oh, it's all normal and stuff, and belts out like she's Diana Ross or something, and it's just, describing these scenes just shows exactly how big of a mess it is. If this was a musical, I would have been fine. If it was just this little modern take on the Sherlock story, I would have been fine. But there's nothing anchoring it. Nothing is grounding it together. There's a scene when the Queen visits them because comedy. And, Watson has this thing where he's like very excited because he's a big fan of the Queen. The age-old kind of Queen. And so he wants to take a self-photograph with her. And this is in the trailer. She knocks him out. But what you don't see is the 5-minute debacle where they think she's dead and they try to hide the body. There were some clever moments in there. There's a bit where, like, the guards are outside the door and they kind of puppeteer her a little bit. Like, that little cheap, move their mouth like it's dead bodies from Whose Line. And then they try to stuff her in the trunk. And then it's like, oh, we can't do it. We have to saw her parts off half and half. And they just don't have a punchline. It's like, okay, we'll go with this scene, run with it, and don't have a punchline. To compare, in Bottom, they did a similar joke like that, where they think they killed the gas man, and so Richie and Eddie are trying to debate about what to do with the body, and at one point, Richie's all like, I got it, let's eat him, and when that goes nowhere, they're like, oh, just throw him onto a bus, and we'll get rid of him, and then the guy wakes up, and they, toss him off. That, at least, that is a much funnier sequence. Because they're just layering it, and layering it, and layering it, and there's some anchorage, there's some weight to it. This is just randomness. It's like, there's no, like, levels of how we are going to layer this sequence. The Queen's out, we think she's dead. Okay, let's pretend that she's alive for the guards. Okay, let's try and hide the body. Okay, doesn't work. We'll saw her off. But there's no punchline that comes back to it. And even when she does wake up, she's like, yeah, remember, 2 days, and just walks off. No repercussions, no mention of what happened. That's it. There's not even a mystery to it either. Like, I could easily figure out who it was in the opening. Like, if you're not going to have Moriarty be the villain, at least have it's not even a bad guy. It's like their maid or something like that, who's apparently being constantly banged by a bunch of dudes. And that happened, and I know that for a fact because we see her walk out with a gentleman, and then later during the big song sequence in the montage, we see her like in bed with a bunch of people, and I guess she's chained to them or something. Turns out she's the daughter of Moriarty and was studying Sherlock and stuff. And her plan is to assassinate the Queen, who's visiting the Titanic before it takes off. Ha 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 ha. Get it? Because the Titanic was around when Sherlock was popular. Ha 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 ha. They even have a cameo by Billy Zane at the end. Ha 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 ha. Oh man. Oh, they so could have improved this in many ways. If you're going to have, like, an event like that in there, and if you're going to go that route of bad taste, remember, Watson, when they think of you, when they think of the Titanic, they'll think of you. You're going down on the Titanic. Oh, my. Yeah, it's 2018, and we're making Titanic jokes. Whatever. I'll give him props for getting Billy Zane, but I still feel bad for his cameo. Sure, why not? I'm trying to think of anything else to talk about this movie. It's just the soundtrack is just a modern rap vibe track. It's not even meshing. Again, if you're gonna do a modern Sherlock, really go for it. Like, really mix in the modernness and the Victorian era. Like, again, they did that with the Robert Downey Jr. ones. It was gritty looking. It was fast paced. And when they had stuff like Sherlock making an electrical cattle prod out of certain items, it was somehow feasible in a way for that time period to make that sort of thing. You make the connection, say, oh yeah, it's just a little cattle prod, like, it's a little taser gun he made out of little parts. Okay, whatever. I feel like if this movie came out maybe 5 or 10 years ago, it would have been fine, and it would have been fine-tuned a little better. Supposedly, I heard the script was originally tailored for Sacha Baron Cohen. I would be interested to see how that could have gone, and I know this movie was a little in and out. Like, I think at one point there were rumors of a Will Ferrell Sherlock Holmes movie, and if this is the one we were going to get that decade or half a decade so ago, then they clearly missed the boat with this one. And that's the biggest crime of this movie. It came out too late. It's not well thought out. There's nothing. It came out of the oven too early. That's the biggest crime for this movie. It came out of the oven too early. There's nothing to anchor it together. There's no focus. And if they want to go in this route of making it gross and raunchy, like, go all out. Really make it gross and raunchy. They have, like, what, a 3-minute sequence where, like, they're at the morgue and Sherlock's vomiting into a wastebasket because, you know, corpses get to him. There's just no anchor. There's no connection. It's just a string of gags, one after another, one after another. The Bottom Live shows are more creative than this, and they're a string of random knob gags, but at least they have a point and purpose. I save your money. Just save your money. This is not even worth seeing in theaters. If you're really that curious, just rent it. I'd say when it comes out to Netflix, see it, but according to what I supposedly heard, it won't be coming to Netflix. Oh yes, that happened. Yeah, this... I really don't know what else to talk about. It's a 90-minute movie, and it feels like... If I felt like it went on for days. It felt like... It felt longer. And the humor just doesn't work. Because it's trying to be topical and hip. There's obvious, nods to Trump here and there. Like, there's a fez that says, "Make Britain Great Again," and one of the doctor characters is all like, "Oh, well, it's a good thing we have democracy and stuff," and, it's not like as if we're going to have a tycoon as a president. Like, oh, great, it's that kind of humor. It's just lazy. It's just so lazy, and you can do a Sherlock Holmes parody and make it funny and make it interesting. And being someone who really loves Sherlock Holmes, there are so many interpretations of the character that are easier to recommend. Great Mouse Detective, Mr. Holmes with Ian McKellen, which is really good. Young Sherlock Holmes, which is the most underrated Christmas movie in existence. And I stand by it. The TV show Sherlock, that one from the mid-80s, 90s, that was made in Canada. The guy's name escapes me. But it was a really good series. They did like a really good adaptation of The Speckled Band. Those are worth more seeing than this. And if you want a comedic take of Sherlock, there's probably others out there. Hell, there's even a parody sketch that was done over on Russian sitcom that did it better than this. So yeah, that's really all I gotta say. Go see Aquaman. That's awesome. Just anything but this. That's really the bottom of the barrel here. And it's weird because for a movie with two 40-year-olds that are acting like a bunch of kids, it's weird that the kid acting is much better in this. Like the scene with like the street urchin news kids that they use at one point to beat up on some people, and even the kids during the early Sherlock school scene, like that I actually thought that was actually more interesting than the acting coming from Will Ferrell or John C. Reilly. And I feel bad because they're two talented people, and they're just there forcing these jokes, forcing these things. And when they don't have a joke, they just like throw one line at a time out the window and see what sticks. And it's quintessentially this movie. You know, there's no plot. And if there is no plot, it's just randomness on top of randomness. And I kind of feel like that's what happened here. It's a case where they had something on the shelf. They said, make movie, go, and made movie, and this is what they got. And I've seen a lot of comedies that people have ragged on as saying as the worst, and I'd rather watch them again. Like Amazon Women on the Moon, Cabin Boy. Well, Kids in the Hall Brain Candy wasn't that bad. That movie is more credible than this, because at least there was a topical thing. It was all about drugs and going into the pharmacy business and the dangers of untested drugs. And there was an anchor to it compared to this. So yeah, the moral of the story is go watch Brain Candy. It's amazing. It's funnier than this. I remember laughing more at that movie than this one. And I had like a Lorne Michaels impersonator and David Foley. My empire is crumbling! Go see Brain Candy. Do it for Cancer Boy. Go watch Snow Day with Chris Elliott. He's amazing in that movie. Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at here is not the worst of the year, but at the same time, it's such a bore to sit through. It's such a misguided product. It's not even worth your time. So yeah, that's all I got. Not much else I can say except see you in the new year.
Go bye-bye.